Kirby spoke to the media. I would say, gave his kind of typical Kirby responses, but what were your biggest takeaways from Kirby, and just kind of we'll talk other SEC Media Day topics too, but yeah, let's start with Kirby.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot. The biggest thing that he continues to talk about is like stuff that I would normally write off as coach speak, but stuff I really kind of feel like it's more relevant. The sentiments he expressed are kind of more relevant now than ever. Like his big, you know how Kirby has these phrases and sayings that he just kind of latches onto and he just kind of drives in your head. His latest one being passion, fire, and energy. But like, and I'm not saying that that's like the most profound thing ever or anything, but like he really emphasized this whole time how important it is now in this era to find players who like really love football and are really crazy about it, and will do the dirty things, and who don't really care that much, like who aren't playing for NIL. And like, I don't know, sometimes you hear people say that and they're also saying that they don't want players to get paid, and they kind of wish that it could be like how it used to be. And he's also kind of stressed. He's like, I don't want that either. Like, I want players to get paid. I just don't want it to change the way that they play the game and approach the game. And yeah. I thought that made a lot of sense. And I think it's a pretty insightful. I mean, obviously every coach wants to recruit kids like that. Don't get me wrong. Kirby Smart is not discovering any new formula here or anything. Even though he is a super experienced recruiter, of course. But like, I think it is a pretty revealing look into the way that Georgia like approaches recruiting overall as a program.
Yeah, I think that's true, and it's obviously on a day like today where Georgia misses out on, and we'll talk recruiting, but misses out on one recruit and another one flips to Texas as well. Like, Georgia fans are kind of in this like, there's just this common narrative of just like, oh, we don't do NIL, but every recruit we don't get is NIL, and it kind of feels that way, like to an extent, but like obviously Georgia's paying players too, like they're right. It feels like it's at least, maybe it's coach speak, but it feels genuine. It doesn't feel like lip service. It feels like, I think maybe Kirby's been burned by, just some guys that were really, their money was the first priority. And those seem to be the guys that transfer after year one or year two. And you're like, we're trying to build a roster here for 3, 4, 5 years. And you don't want to take a chance on a guy who seems maybe likely to just look for the next best thing after a year. So I struggle because it feels so biased to just be like, Kirby, we're just doing things the right way.
Yeah.
Like that's what everyone thinks. But I mean, it kind of seems legitimate to an extent that it's not our biggest sales pitch. It's like probably Kirby's like, it feels like Kirby's sales pitch is you're going to make money if you come here. This is not going to be the most important thing, but if you come here, you're going to get whatever, kind of collective, whatever it is. Like, we're going to take care of you. Like, you might not be rich, but we're going to take care of you and then hopefully get you to the next level. But I think it's, I don't want to just sit here and be like, every time we don't get a recruit, it's because, oh, they paid more. But to an extent, it kind of feels that way at the same time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is just kind of like rooted in what's happened, like in truth, because it's like you've seen schools that have just like kind of thrown a bunch of money at kids and not like and just gotten a bunch of 5-star recruits through a bunch of NIL deals. Like, those teams haven't really been as successful, like the Texas A&Ms and like the USCs of the world. And so I think it's kind of fair to say, like, Kirby Smart is someone who has won 2 championships. Like, he knows more than anyone that, like, you kind of have to recruit those kids that have a bit of a screw loose, and who just kind of love football regardless, and who aren't, doing it. He's the biggest thing that stood out. One of the biggest quotes that he said that stood out to me is like, we value relationships over transactions. Because he's like, having that relationship with a player is like the only way that you can really, really push him to succeed. Because like, it's like he said, a lot of coaches now are just like not pushing players as hard because they don't want them to transfer, basically. And it's like, you can't really win a championship when that's the dynamic. When the coaches and the players are a little more than like business partners, So
no, and I think that's fair. Especially, it's like you think of how Alabama was built. It was just there was first round picks. There was future first round picks that weren't playing on essentially every single Alabama roster Saban ever had,
every time.
So it's like that's just kind of how college works. Maybe it takes you a year, maybe it takes you 2 years to get on the field, and maybe it takes you 3 years, and eventually you get there, and then you get your exposure, get to the NFL. But let me throw out the comments here. We got Matthew Miller from our Texas Voice of College Football channel. Remember, every recruit you get is because of a relationship, and every recruit you miss is because
that's
of
exactly
NFL.
right.
Absolutely,
And
sir.
That's for every single program.
That's how it works.
If a program doesn't commit to your school, it's because he's a greedy SOB who's only in it for the money. But if he recruits to your school, he's a great guy.
It's because he just loves the university and the campus feel and the faculty, and just what it means to go to that university. And what else did Matthew Miller say here? The best schools do both. They make the relationship. They make the relationship strong and then get the deal done with the money if they are in the fence. If they're on the fence, between a couple of schools, money can't be the first thing. No, I agree. Like, and Georgia's sitting here since they did the re-rankings. Let's just go into recruiting. We'll come back to SEC Media Days. Georgia's sitting here right now with like the number 1 ranked class since they just updated the recruiting rankings. And obviously James Johnson just flipped, so maybe they just dropped to 2. But he also flipped to Texas. I mean, what Matthew is saying here is obviously accurate, and we joke about every recruit we don't get is because of that. But it's also, everyone does say that, and everyone probably says what I'm about to say now too. But with Georgia, it's actually different because like this is a program that's won 2 national titles. Like, Kirby was there with Saban. Like you saw what Kirby's first few like pre-NIL classes were like. They were on the trajectory to just be signing the number 1 class every year,
To be fair, I would say Georgia won. They went back to back like just right before NIL got completely like out of hand, out of control. But like I think it still counts as like within the NIL era, but maybe not as much as like.
And also Justice Terry last year just explicitly, just straight up said that's what it was. So like that he had been to Georgia 20-30 times since his freshman year of high school, and was like Texas and started recruiting him in like November or something, and he signed with it because of the money. So there is some validity that this happens.
And individual guys all you want, like,
and then there's national guys like Steve Wiltfong that I've talked about, like Jackson Cantwell is a classic guy, like pre-NIL, this guy's in Georgia's class every time. But with NILs, it's another factor here. And it's not to say that it's like parity isn't a good thing, but it's like when you're talking sharing the wealth, the 99% are down here like, hey, share the wealth. But when you're Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, you're like, no, I'd rather not share the wealth. I'd rather just stay at the 1%. Well, in college football, sharing the wealth is not good for Georgia. We're sitting up here at number 1. Like, yeah, we're good with the system. We didn't want anything to change.
It's good that the players are getting paid above all else. I'll say that.
For sure. No shade there, but and then like I referenced, Tyler Atkinson, like we're talking about, committed to Texas today. I'm really curious how his NIL thing is going to work out. I know Cooper Flagg was a New Balance guy that I guess just wore Nike when he played for Duke and stuff. So I guess you can be an Adidas guy. He literally had 4 Nike schools he was deciding between.
Yeah, so I don't know how it works now.
I assume he can't wear Adidas while playing for the University of Texas. So